Like I said in my last video, I am back from maternity leave and I am so excited about the content that I am going to be putting out over the next little bit. And a funny thing is that I put together plans for the videos that I was going to be doing on my return to work before having my baby. And of course, now that I'm here, I'm scrapping a lot of those ideas. The reason being that through my conversations with my clients as I'm getting back into work and showing up for my first few coaching calls after leave, is that there's other conversations that I think are a lot more important than the videos that I originally planned. Also, with my second baby, my perspective has shifted again, and I feel like there's just way more interesting and important conversations to have than sticking to the basic stuff that I'd planned out, like what website builder is the best and how I set up certain Dubsado pieces. And while those conversations are important and they do have a place, and I will probably get to them at some point because I do want to talk about those too, I'm finding it way more engaging and seeing that you guys are also liking the bigger picture stuff around marketing strategy and aligning your business with your life and all of my maternity leave planning and how I'm coming back to work and all that kind of thing. One topic that is coming up not only for myself but for my clients right now is goal setting. As we're starting to get closer to the second half of the year and the mid-year check-ins that I do with myself and with my clients around June, this is coming up. It's also coming up because I had a Zoom pause over my maternity leave with my clients. So as I'm getting back into those calls with them, and while they made a lot of progress on my time off, there are some of the same old setbacks that are holding them back. And I'm thinking that if they're being held back, these super talented and successful business owners that I'm working with, if they're being held back, then there's other people that are going to be held back by them as well. And I'm not immune to this. So while I'm talking about these things from my perspective, my client's perspective, I'm hoping that they relate to you too. So this video is going to be an honest, real talk kind of chat about the things that are probably holding you back from hitting your goals and that I just want you to be aware of as we are moving into the rest of the year. Because you're not going to make progress if you keep letting these things get in your way. And not so surprisingly, a lot of them have to do with mindset and yourself and things that you can do, and you can start to shift like right now to start seeing better results. If you don't know me, hey, I'm Jill Wise, a conversion copywriter, brand and marketing strategist, and business coach. And through both my Done For You studio and education platform, I've worked with, coached, and taught literally hundreds of entrepreneurs how to make good money online. Obviously, goal setting is something that we do at the beginning of any type of agreement or project. Like, we want to know that we're on the same page of what you are working towards and how you are going to get there. But it's also important to be aware of the things that are getting in your way. And this is something that I actually have my one-on-one and my mastermind clients look into and reflect on to try to identify what their potential roadblocks could be before we even get started, so that again it brings that awareness about. So the roadblocks that I'm going to talk about here are ones that I commonly see across the board with all types of clients, and especially those that are in my mastermind. And like I said at the beginning of this video, a lot of these are inspired by actual conversations that I'm having with clients. So like, this is real stuff that I know that people are struggling with right now, and I don't want it to be so hard for you. My whole mission here is to try to make it easier for other people to make a living online in a way that lets them live their life too, because honestly, this is a sweet spot that I'm in and I want this for more people. Okay, so enough rambling about that. Let's get into the things that are holding you back from hitting your goals. The first one, and one of the biggest ones that I see come up so often, and it's just repeatedly coming up for clients and for myself, is letting fear lead. It doesn't matter what your fear is, we all have something. And that could be a fear of failure or a fear of being seen. I see this in some of my clients, like they don't want other people to like notice them. It could be fear around being honest with yourself and what you really want. So instead of actually figuring out what that is that you really want, you put yourself in this box of where you think that you need to be going, and that holds you back. It could be a fear that is a scarcity mindset. So maybe you're scared to raise your rates, so you don't, and you play small and you just keep yourself in this stuck spot. I mentioned the fear of failure. That's a big one. That's where like the perfectionism comes in, and like you just want to do everything exactly right. And then you end up wasting time in areas of your business that don't need those resources spent on that area. So maybe instead of making like big money moves, you are just stressing over little design tweaks in Canva or editing a caption for Instagram for the millionth time. And that stuff isn't going to be as impactful as where you could be spending your time instead, but this fear and this perfectionism is keeping you stuck. It could also be imposter syndrome, or just not wanting to be embarrassed if things don't go your way, or all of these things. Whatever your fear is, I encourage you to come to terms with it after you identify it and just acknowledge that it's there, and then take the steps that you need to overcome that fear and keep going forward. Another thing that holds my clients back at every single stage, this is something that we repeatedly come back to, is having unrealistic expectations about outcomes and how you're going to achieve them. So that looks like maybe setting a goal but not having the steps to get there, or saying that you want to do something, you want to make the time for something, but you're not actually making the time for that thing. I find myself getting stuck with this all the time. I will make a massive to-do list for a day and I'm never going to get through that to-do list, especially as I am juggling the schedules of 2 children, 2 and under. It's a lot going on. So I always need to check myself of like, what can I actually accomplish in a day? Where is this actually going to fit? And while there might be a lengthy list of things that I want to do, something's got to give. So if you are in a spot or a season where there's just so many things that you want to do, but you're overwhelmed by your to-do list and there's just so much going on and you keep saying you want to do this thing, I hope that you sit down and you think about what your priorities really are. Like, where do you truly want to be spending your time in terms of money and energy and resources like that? Because we all have a choice around this. And when you choose to be more realistic about what your expectations are, and you actually carve out the time in your calendar or set aside the money in the budget to make something happen, it's way more likely to actually play out how you want it to. So remember to be really clear on what your priorities are, and remember that you have the power to choose what those priorities are in the first place. Another thing that is probably holding you back from hitting your goals is that you might be hanging on to old habits. All of us get into a slump sometimes. We get into a rut, or we just like fall back into these old habits that keep us stuck. That could be something again like perfectionism or people pleasing or overcommitting or doom scrolling or staying up too late. Maybe you just don't take care of yourself, or you get stuck into comparison and that keeps you stuck. Whatever it is, we all have bad habits. We all have the thing, and it is important for you to understand that you have the thing so that you can start to tell that thing to stop getting in your way. Like, I know if my to-do list is very, very long and I start pushing myself to the side and maybe I'm not working out, I'm not going to the gym, then I'm going to start to feel really bad. And it's really important for me to get that movement into my schedule so that I can feel good and accomplish more things. So it might not even be like a habit that's actually attached to your work that is holding you back, but something to do with how you're taking care of yourself, how you're spending your time outside of work, and just how your work and your life are aligned. But if you want to achieve the goals that you've set, you really need to kick those old habits and you need to keep yourself in check if you find that you're falling back into them. The next thing that I see happening with my clients all too often, and this is one that has come up as I'm returning to work and maybe they haven't seen me on Zoom as much over the last few months, is that they're jumping around between strategies. Lots of freelancers and online business owners are guilty of this. We see something else happening, we see someone doing a cool idea and we jump around, or maybe we don't see the results we want as quick as we want, so we change tracks. This is not going to help you in any way, and it's going to keep you stuck because you're not sticking with something long enough. If you are really intentional about the strategy and the plans that you are setting out and you stick with it for a good amount of time, then you will be able to make intentional decisions about how to go forward. Because of course there's a time and a place when you need to quit and you need to move on to the next thing or try something new in order to get the results that you want. But if you jump ship too often or too soon, then it's just going to feel haphazard and just like nothing is really working out how you want it to. So again, this comes back to self-awareness and knowing what your tendencies are and just being really intentional about how you are choosing to act and show up every single day. This probably also comes back to having a bit of discipline in order to stick with things, even if you don't feel necessarily motivated or excited about them that day. But I want you to make decisions that are smart business decisions and not ones that are just based on your emotions of how you're feeling that day, because that's often what I find is the like trigger for this jumping around. Like maybe a client is having a rough day or a rough week and then they decide to scrap everything, even though it was working, it just wasn't working as quick as they wanted it. So if you find yourself doing this, then pause and take a breath and ask yourself if this is something that you need to actually stick with a little bit longer, or if it's time to truly change directions. Which leads to the final thing that I wanted to talk about, the thing that is often holding my clients back and myself back, and that is when we are hanging on to something for too long. So at the same time as needing to stick with something when it is time to stick with it, you also need to know when it's time to jump ship. When it's not working, when you need to change directions, when you need to rethink the plan, or maybe even rethink what your goals are, because honestly, dreams change and that's okay. Most often I see this shows up in like holding on to team members for too long or sticking with offers that aren't necessarily working. Maybe they're big time and resource just like sucks. Maybe they're not very profitable, but you can't let them go, or a team member is just like draining your energy and your budget, and it's just not working out, but you like them, so you don't want to let them go. But as business owners, we need to know when it is time to let things go and when it is time to try something new, even if making that decision is painful in some way. Because especially if you are a freelancer or a personal brand like I am, I find that business is really personal. Like, yes, we try to separate ourselves and our identities and our emotions from our business, but it is still very much us if you have a business like mine, and that makes it really challenging to let go. And with letting go, we also need to know when it is time to let go of like our independence with this and ask for help. This one is a little bit funny because I see this even with my clients or as myself when I'm hiring a coach or a consultant. Even if you're in the position where you've already technically asked for help, some of us still feel awkward about asking for that help. So maybe you don't want to bother the person that you know is there to help you, or you just don't feel like you're ready for the help yet. So along with understanding when you need to ask for help, it's also welcoming and allowing for that help. Like, if you sign up for coaching, then you need to accept that coaching. And like I've said through this entire video, I have been in this spot too. I have had all of these things holding me back too, but I know that when I'm aware of these challenges, then it's so much easier to overcome them. I can be like sitting in the weeds of it and feeling like everything is really hard. But when I'm like, okay, I know that this is probably the thing that's holding me back again. This is the lesson that I need to learn again, because clearly I didn't learn it the first time, and that's why it's happening to me again. When you can realize that, then you can move forward. I also know that these things are really hard to figure out on your own, because when you're in it, when you're just like up in your head, it's impossible to see what things are getting in your way. Maybe you're sitting there and you're like, I'm trying so hard, I'm putting in so many hours, I'm doing the work, why is it not working? Well, it's probably one of these things that we just talked about that is actually stopping you from seeing the results that you want. One thing that I've had to learn literally every single day since becoming a mom and trying to figure out how to juggle mom life with my work and making the two just like work together is my schedule and the things that I can actually fit into my day, and then all of the things that we talked about here. So I'm gonna leave you with this, but I also would love if you go and check out the 6-Figure Schedule. It is a free download. It's a peek at my actual calendar, like the time blocks that I use to check myself every single day to make sure that I'm prioritizing my work, my own well-being, and my family, and just how all of these pieces are actually fitting into my calendar. If you are struggling with any of these right now, just know that you are not alone. Like, I feel this so much right now as I'm trying to figure out how to juggle my work with 2 kids and taking care of myself and drinking enough water, which means that I should probably drink some water right now. Building a business is a lot of work, let alone all of the life and like adulting responsibilities that we have on top of that. But I know that you chose to do this because you are a special type of person that has bigger dreams for yourself and your family, and that is worth it. So hopefully that reminder is helpful for you as you keep moving forward to achieve your goals. I'm gonna wrap up here because nap time is probably almost over, and if you are new around here, I film all of my videos on nap time. So I'm gonna pause here. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will chat with you soon.